Improving Self-Esteem, Module 5, Negative Self-Evaluations. I do not own this material. I'm reading this workbook aloud for those that might benefit from an accompanying audio resource while going through the materials. This information package is designed to provide you with some information about low self-esteem, how it develops, how it is maintained, and how to address this problem. It is organized into modules that are designed to be worked through in sequence. The Government of Western Australia's Centre for Clinical Interventions recommends that you complete one module before going on to the next. Each module includes information, worksheets, and suggested exercises or activities. Table of Contents. Introduction, page 2. What are negative self-evaluations? Page 2. Challenging negative self-evaluations? Page 4. Thought Diary for Negative Self-Evaluations. Example, page 7. Worksheet, Thought Diary for Negative Self-Evaluations, page 8. Module Summary, page 9. About this module, page 10. Introduction. In Module 3, we talked about how dormant low self-esteem becomes active and maintains itself until it becomes acute. When you encounter an at-risk situation, your negative core belief about yourself is activated and leads to two types of negative thoughts: biased expectations and negative self-evaluations. In the previous module, we talked about how to address biased expectations. In this module, we will discuss negative self-evaluations in more detail and discuss ways of changing and overcoming them. By addressing your negative self-evaluations in daily situations, you can prevent the negative beliefs you hold about yourself from becoming confirmed and reactivated. Again, this will help you to chip away at your low self-esteem. What are negative self-evaluations? As we've already seen in Module 3, negative self-evaluations are negative thoughts that commonly occur when you encounter an at-risk situation where your unhelpful rule or assumption is broken and your negative core beliefs have been activated. When this happens, you will tend to evaluate yourself in a negative way, becoming harsh and critical of who you are as a person. You will tend to tell yourself that you should have done this or shouldn't have done that, chastising yourself and beating yourself up for not meeting the standards you've set for yourself. Put negative and derogatory labels on yourself, calling yourself hurtful names like pathetic, useless, idiot, and making sweeping generalizations about yourself based on a very specific event, saying things such as, "I'm always doing this, I never learn, everything is ruined." When you're so critical of yourself, you will tend to behave in particular ways, often engaging in unhelpful behaviors. You will tend to withdraw or isolate yourself from family or friends, to overcompensate for things, neglect things, opportunities, responsibilities, self-care, or be passive rather than assertive with others. At the end of the day, the unhelpful thoughts and behaviors contribute to you feeling depressed, low, sad, guilty, and this is confirmation that your negative core beliefs are true. Here's an example of negative self-evaluations in action. You can follow this example that is illustrated in the form of the model on the next page. Let's say that you have the negative core belief, "I am worthless." At present, your low self-esteem is dormant as you've developed the rule and assumption, "I must make everyone else happy to be accepted." As long as you're able to live up to your rule, you might feel okay about yourself. However, the situation is about to change. You've had to cancel dinner with a friend because of work commitments. You're now in an at-risk situation because you've disappointed someone. This means your rule has been broken. At this point, you might have thought, "I'm a useless and pathetic friend," or "I don't deserve to have friends," or "I should not let other people down." And you're probably feeling sad, depressed, and guilty. It's also at this point that you could choose how to behave in this situation. You could apologize profusely and put yourself down to your friend. You could try to make up for canceling the dinner by offering to pay for the next outing or rescheduling your dinner to a time that suits your friend but is inconvenient to you. This is overcompensation. Alternatively, you could withdraw from your friends for a while and avoid their calls and emails. All these are unhelpful behaviors, and they maintain your negative emotions and confirm your negative core belief. What are negative self-evaluations? Image description. Two flowcharts. Flowchart 1 titled Dormant Low Self-Esteem and Flowchart 2 titled Acute Low Self-Esteem are to be read together. In Flowchart 1, Statement 1 that reads negative life experiences is on the left. On its right is a right-directed dotted arrow. Statement 2, negative core belief, is on the right of the arrow. Underneath Statement 2 is I am worthless. On the right of Statement 2 are two arrows, one that faces right and the other faces left. Statement 3 on the right is unhelpful rules and assumptions. Underneath Statement 3 is I must make everyone else happy to be accepted. An arrow directs downward from Statement 3 to Statement 4. Statement 4 reads unhelpful behavior. Underneath Statement 4 is say yes to all requests made to me, bend over backwards to please people, observe people carefully to see if they're ever displeased with me. An arrow from Statement 4 directs to Statement 2, the negative core belief that I am worthless. Flowchart 2 is titled Acute Low Self-Esteem. Between flowcharts 1 and 2 is a plus sign, and Statement 5, At-Risk Situation. Below that is written, Cancel dinner with a friend because of work commitments. A downwardly directed arrow below it to the first statement in flowchart 2. Below the arrow is Statement 6, Activation of Negative Core Belief. Below it is written, I am worthless. Below this is a downwardly directed arrow. Below the arrow is Statement 7, Negative Self-Evaluations. Below it is written, I am a useless and pathetic friend. I don't deserve to have friends. I shouldn't let people down. I'm always being selfish. They're better off without a friend like me. A downwardly directed arrow is below it. Statement 8, Unhelpful Behaviors, is below the arrow. Below Statement 8 is written, Apologize profusely and put myself down to my friend, or overcompensate when trying to make it up for my friend, for example, offering to pay for the next outing, rescheduling our dinner at a time that is not convenient for me, or withdrawing and avoiding my friends for a while. A downwardly directed arrow is below it. Under this is Statement 9, Unhelpful Emotions. Under it is written, Depressed, Sad, Guilty. Under this is Statement 10, Confirmation of Negative Core Belief. Under Statement 10 is written, I was right. I am worthless. Continuing with the example, your belief, I am worthless, gets confirmed in a number of ways. Firstly, it's confirmed by all the negative self-evaluations you are making, all that negative self-talk. If you keep telling yourself these negative things, you will continue to believe them. Secondly, feeling depressed can confirm your belief that you are worthless, because a symptom of depression itself is thinking negatively about everything, including yourself. Thirdly, all your unhelpful behaviors, for example, acting in a passive and apologetic way, trying to overcompensate or withdrawing, mean that you're acting in a manner consistent with the idea that you are worthless. So if you act as if you are worthless, you'll continue to think that you are worthless and feel sad or depressed. It is important to note that some people think that making negative self-evaluations is a good thing. Some people think that being critical and harsh on yourself keeps you grounded. It stops you from getting too big for your boots. It prevents you from becoming a tall poppy that needs to be cut down. It spurs you on, motivating you to do better and better. Some of these might be commonly held beliefs, but are they really true? Is putting yourself down and criticizing yourself actually a good and healthy thing to do? If it is, then we would do it to our loved ones regularly. When something goes wrong and our loved ones are in distress, we would help them through it by abusing them, calling them names and telling them off. Is this what we do to the people we love? Most people would probably not agree. Most people would say that they do the exact opposite, that when times are tough, they show compassion and kindness to the ones they love, comforting them and encouraging them. So, if that is what you would do for other human beings, why is it that you don't do that for yourself? Take a moment to think about this issue of whether being harsh and critical of yourself is a healthy or unhealthy thing to do. Perhaps write down the costs of making negative self-evaluations. Note the disadvantages of being so critical of yourself. Think about how talking to yourself in such a harsh manner affects you. Does it prevent you from doing certain things? Does it make you feel a certain way? Is it unfair to yourself in some way? Hopefully, you're coming to see that constantly making negative self-evaluations is not only generally unhelpful, it also helps keep your low self-esteem alive and well. So how could you respond differently in the way that is inconsistent with low self-esteem. Challenging negative self-evaluations. As we did with biased expectations, one way to address your negative self-evaluations is to challenge them and to develop balanced self-evaluations. Remember that our thoughts and evaluations are often opinions that we have rather than facts. Therefore, they are open to question and should not be something that we just blindly accept if they are causing us distress. Instead, you can dispute, dissect, examine, and assess them, like a detective or lawyer would, to see how realistic they are and put things in perspective. Again, challenging your negative self-evaluations isn't something you should do in your head, as this can get messy and confusing. The best way is to write it down. To help you through the process, we suggest using a thought diary for negative self-evaluations. This helps you to work through the challenging process in a step-by-step way, on paper, making things clearer and more useful to you. The thought diary will first ask you to identify your negative self-evaluations. To help you do that, first ask yourself, what is the situation I'm in? Then, what am I saying to myself? How am I evaluating myself? How am I putting myself down? How am I criticizing myself? After you've written these down, you'll then need to ask yourself, how strongly do I believe these evaluations of myself? Rate the strength of your belief between 0 and 100%. What emotions am I feeling? How intense are these emotions? Rate the intensity of the emotions between 0 and 100%. What unhelpful behaviors did I engage in? Once you've completed the first section, you're ready to begin to challenge your negative self-evaluations. Here are the questions asked in your thought diary to challenge your negative self-evaluations. What is the evidence for my evaluations? What is the evidence against my evaluations? Are these opinions I have of myself or facts? How helpful is it for me to evaluate myself in this way? How else could I view the situation? What are other perspectives that there might be? What advice would I give to a friend in this same situation? Are there any positives in me or the situation that I am ignoring? What would be more helpful behavior I could carry out? Note, if you have engaged in any unhelpful behaviors, ask yourself, how could I act differently? How could I behave in a manner that is inconsistent with my negative self-evaluations? For example, instead of withdrawing and isolating yourself, be active and a part of things around you. Instead of overcompensating for things, just do what you think the average person might do in this situation. Instead of neglecting things, make time for them. And instead of being passive, try to be more assertive. The ultimate aim of doing this thought diary is for you to develop more balanced self-evaluations. Once you've explored the answers to the above challenging questions in your thought diary, ask yourself, what would be a more balanced self-evaluation to replace my negative self-evaluation? The final step is then to re-rate how much you now believe the original negative self-evaluation you were making. Re-rate how intense you now feel the emotions that you were originally feeling. If you work through the entire thought diary for challenging your negative self-evaluations, it's likely that you'll experience a decrease in the belief in the evaluations you are making and a decrease in the intensity of your emotions. Using a thought diary to develop balanced self-evaluations will help quiet rather than activate or confirm your negative beliefs about yourself. This will help you approach situations with an open mind rather than letting your negative opinion of yourself constantly interfere with how you live your life. Try using a thought diary for negative self-evaluations the next time you notice yourself feeling down, sad, depressed, guilty, or hopeless, and you have the sense that you are beating yourself up, being hard on yourself, telling yourself off, and criticizing yourself and your abilities. Stop yourself when you notice these sorts of feelings and see if you can find the specific negative self-evaluations that are influencing your feelings. When you find these, use a thought diary to tackle them. Continue to use a thought diary to deal with these sorts of thoughts and feelings until it becomes second nature. Then you will find that you can easily catch the negative self-evaluations in your head and challenge them in your head. This will take some time and a lot of practice, so for now, stick to writing it all down in your thought diary. Thought diary for negative self-evaluations. An example. I'm going to read through the example, stating first the question and then the example response. Identify your negative self-evaluations. What is the at-risk situation? Cancel dinner with a friend due to work commitments. What am I saying to myself? How am I evaluating myself, putting myself down, or criticizing myself? I am a useless and pathetic friend. I don't deserve to have friends. I shouldn't let other people down. I'm always being selfish. They're better off without a friend like me. How much do I believe these evaluations of myself? 0 to 100, about 85%. What emotions am I feeling? Rate the intensity, 0 to 100%. Guilt, about 90%. Depressed, 70%. What unhelpful behaviors did I engage in? I apologized profusely to my friend and said that I'd been a really pathetic friend to her. I also said that I would pay for our next outing and rescheduled to a time that wasn't quite convenient for me. Challenge your negative self-evaluations. What is the evidence for my evaluations? I disappointed a friend by canceling our dinner. This is not the first time I've disappointed a friend. What is the evidence against my evaluations? I only canceled for a very good reason. If I could have made it to dinner, I would have. Most of the time, I'm very considerate with all of my friends. I never intentionally hurt my friends. People have told me that I am a valued friend. Are these opinions I have of myself or facts? It's probably an opinion, not a fact. How is it helpful for me to evaluate myself in this way? It is pretty unfair to beat myself up for something that was mostly beyond my control. It just makes me feel really bad and like I have to overcompensate for being a bad friend. How else could I view the situation? What other perspectives are there? Things will often interfere with plans we make. It is a fact of life. It happens to everyone. Canceling dinner with a friend due to work commitments doesn't make me a bad friend. You can't please everyone all the time. That's impossible. If the tables were turned and my friend did this to me, I wouldn't think badly of them. As long as I show I care and want to still go out with them, then I am being a good friend. What advice would I give to a friend in the same situation? If they are a real friend, they will understand and get over it. They won't think badly. If they're disappointed, it's probably because they think you're a good friend and they want to spend time with you. Being disappointed about not spending time with you doesn't mean they think you're a bad friend or upset with you as a person. What would be more helpful behavior I could carry out? Instead of being overly apologetic and overly keen to make up, I can just explain the circumstances, apologize once or even twice, and reschedule our plans for a time that suits us both. I don't have to grovel or bend over backwards to prove that I am a good friend. Balanced self-evaluations. A more balanced evaluation of myself is, I'm being the best friend I can be under the circumstances. My friends have told me they value me. That must mean I'm a good friend. I am generally considerate to my friends and never set out to hurt people. Disappointing this friend was beyond my control. Unfortunately, you can't make everybody happy all the time. How much do I believe my original negative self-evaluation now, 0 to 100%? About 35%. How intense are my emotions now, 0 to 100%? Guilt, 45%. Depressed, 20%. Thought diary for negative self-evaluations. On the next page, you're given a blank version of the worksheet to fill out, or if you go to the website, you can download the worksheet as a standalone PDF without the rest of the material. I suggest to my clients that they have this with them so they can use it on the fly if they find an at-risk situation comes up that they'd like the opportunity to challenge. You can keep it bookmarked in the browser app on your phone, or you can open it and take a screenshot that you can easily find in your photo gallery. If you would like the question read aloud, you can rewind to the previous section from page 5. As a preview, the next module can be thought of as complementing the present module. In the present module, we've asked you to look at how to quash your negative self-evaluations, allowing you to be less harsh and critical of yourself. The next module also tackles this tendency to be very hard on yourself, but we will take a different route. Instead of trying to combat negative self-evaluations, we will look at how to promote balanced self-evaluations by paying attention to the positive aspects of yourself and treating yourself more kindly. Therefore, this and the next module go hand in hand, working together to tackle our automatic tendencies to evaluate ourselves in a negative way. Module Summary. Negative self-evaluations occur when your unhelpful rules and/or assumptions are broken. Negative self-evaluations involve being highly self-critical, putting negative labels on yourself, and making sweeping generalizations about yourself and your abilities. Negative self-evaluations will lead to certain types of unhelpful behaviors, for example, withdrawal, isolation, overcompensation, neglect, passivity, and unhelpful emotions, for example, depression, sadness, or guilt. Some people think that being critical of yourself is a good thing, but at the end of the day, it is an unhelpful and unfair way to treat yourself. One way to overcome negative self-evaluations is to challenge or dispute them using a thought diary. This involves identifying your negative self-evaluations, challenging your negative self-evaluations, and developing more balanced self-evaluations. About this module. Contributors, background, and references can be found within the information package at the link above. This information package is the intellectual property of the Government of Western Australia's Centre for Clinical Interventions. Many other self-help resources can also be found on their website. For many people, low self-esteem can lead to difficult emotions. If this is the case for you, you may find their other resources for managing depression or managing anxiety helpful.